right, guys, we got something kind of special today. So sit back, get ready, because we got a lot to unpack, because we're not just going to talk about this. We have to talk about the packaging. So, guys, we are going to talk about the Prince Customs Daruma. So, if you're watching on headphones, turn down the volume because here comes the music. All right, guys. So we are going to talk about the Daruma. Now, you guys know that we've looked at these at shows. It's the first time I've had one come in for a channel. I actually did sharpening on this for the customer. These things are gorgeous. This is going to be one of those weird knives that for some reason I like it, even though, not that it's not gorgeous or anything like that. It's just something that's not typically in my wheelhouse. It's got a lot of things on it that will be things that typically I do not like in a knife, but for some reason they work on this. I love these knives. So a little background history before we get into it. Princeton owns a company. He has a laser where he was doing a lot of custom laser work. He got into CNC, decided he was going to start making knives, but he decided to do it in a different fashion. This knife is completely modular. Each one of these parts is individually machined, more parts than you'd expect to see on a knife. So when we look at the packaging, we're going to look at the actual data sheet that comes with it, the spec sheet, and it talks about each individual component of this knife that Princeton made. So, guys, let's just go ahead and turn it around, because like I said, we got a lot to look at, not just knife itself and knife construction and knife design, but also how it comes packaged, and what makes it really, really cool is the attention that Princeton puts into this. So, like I said, the Prince Customs Daruma. Let's get it turned around. Without any further ado, let's break into this and start looking at it. All right, guys. So usually I don't do it like this, but what we're going to do is we're going to open this up, basically like an unboxing. You're going to see how this stuff is packaged. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see better. Princeton goes out of his way for the entire full package. So your packaging comes looking like this. Slide off lid, layer of foam. Underneath the foam, you get your certificate card that tells you exactly everything about it. It's signed by Princeton himself. Birth date, the model number, serial number, materials, and everything's on that. That is your certificate. And then underneath it, I'm trying to get it out. I don't want to wrinkle it up too much. There's kind of no real way to avoid it. Is a sheet that lays on top of it that is basically an outline of the knife, like a 2D. And then it talks about each individual part. So you have the blade, the frame, the bolster, the inserts, the spacer, the pocket clip, and the bearings. Every one of those parts is listed on here with its material. Just a really cool way to do it. Then you get into the really over the top part of this custom packaging. Prince Customs, this is medium density foam. It's got a slot for the bits, the two bits that you need to take apart the knife. And then a carved, now I'm gonna keep this off frame because I'm saving this for last. You pull the knife out, you get your knife so it's all slotted. But then he even goes as far as to basically mirror the knife in the packaging. It's only for aesthetics. There's a cutout for the pocket clip. Gorgeous packaging. Sometimes I think we go a little over the top with packaging on things, but in this case, we're talking about a company that custom is in the name. So give me a second. Let me move all this stuff out of the way. There we go. So what are we looking at here? So this is the Prince Customs Daruma. Now, there are so many different options that Princeton will give you. You can get these knives made pretty much to your specifications. It is a custom knife company. Princeton makes these all in-house. CNC, you can see the milling pattern. I really like this. There's other companies that do the same thing. The CNC thing, like North Arms, there's Skaha in the Skaha 2 were both a CNC made knife, Grimsmo knives. There's several others. Brian Ty has done a lot of stuff with CNC'd parts, but these are all fully CNC'd and then hand polished and hand worked. So this is a unique looking knife with an interesting looking blade. And when you see that really heavy curvature, it looks like a feather. I told him this and he's like, yeah, that was the whole thing. It's got the veins in it. It looks like a feather. Princeton put a lot of work into this knife. Now, I know that this, let me zoom back out. This is a unique looking knife. So you would think that like there's some things to it. So we'll get into all of that. But first, let's look at the specs. So you're looking at a 3-inch blade, 20 CV, overall length of 5.25 inches. That's not a real great blade to handle ratio, but it is super comfortable. As far as weight, they have it listed on only places I could find it. They have it listed at 4.8 ounces, but we're going to give it a quick look see here and see what it says. 4 7/8 ounces. So yeah, about 4.8 ish. My scale's not the greatest. Grams, that would be for you guys that don't do freedom units, 140 grams. So let's get this out of the way. So first of all, let's go through all the things that about this knife that should not appeal to me. Really long flipper tab, really strong curvature, tall pocket clip. I mean, that is a very tall pocket clip. And that really strong curvature with that short blade to handle ratio. Now, those are all things that I say that I don't like in knives. But I will tell you, the first time I picked one of these up at a knife show, I fell in love. These knives are incredibly nice, incredibly comfortable. I will say that the curvature does make it a little bit more challenging to sharpen, just because the way you have to hold it. So let me pull this down just ever so slightly. Give me a second. We're going to readjust this. So this entire knife is made in-house. You can see that he does even as far as to put his logo inside the knife. 20 CV blade. I wanted to get in on this real well. Look at that. Look at that pattern and that blade shape. The things that he does with these knives that makes them special is, like I said, each one of these are bolt-on parts. Each one of these parts are made separate from each other. So a lot of knives you'll just have the frame and then a liner. But this, you have a liner, which on this one is Damascus, or I'm sorry, Timascus. Timascus liner on a liner lock. Internal enclosed stop pin. Runs in a track. On bearings, on ceramic bearings. Guys, I don't know what else I really need to say about it, except let's just look at it for a minute. These are gorgeous. And so he does multiple variations of this. You can get this knife done in different configurations. You just go on his site and you basically click and build your own knife. It's like when Ford did that. Ford and Chevy did that on their website. Like, what do you want in your truck? And you would basically go in and build your truck. Milled pocket clip. Like I said, it is really tall. However, the way it sits in your hand, you really don't feel it all that much. It doesn't, because you're not touching all of it. It's really thin. It curves around. It kind of contours to the inside of your hand really comfortably. Really, really comfortably. So, like I said, we've talked to Princeton a couple times at different shows. Jim Skelton did a really good in-depth review of this knife. I really don't have anything else to say about it as far as like specs. It's just gorgeous. That blade shape actually does. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I couldn't not do it. I wanted to see. I did do some cutting with this. Not heavy cutting, just some light cutting, just to see how it feels when you cut. It is a great cutter. It's just in the right position where you're getting the right amount of pressure on that. and tension in the right places where the blade is touching and where it's at in your hand. I don't think you'd get real fatigued cutting for a long time with this knife if you had a lot of stuff to cut, if you had one of these. Now, this version, I doubt most people would be doing much in the way of actual cutting with this knife. This is a fairly expensive knife. So, take a good close look at it again. Even the pivot with that differential anodizing, where the pockets are a different color than the exterior. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Damascus. And that milling that Damascus really gives it a really beautiful pattern where you see the highs and lows in those layers on both sides. Yeah. And the color, the heat coloring he did on this came out amazing. This is probably one of my favorite versions of this knife I've seen. So let's turn this around and do some final talking about this, just the final thoughts. So I was actually sitting here trying to think, I'm racking my brain. I'm trying to think where the first place we met Princeton was. And I think it was at Blade Show West, the first year that Nico and I went to Portland. I'm 99%, almost 100% positive on that. And that's one of those things, like I kept going back to his table. And we struck up a friendship. I talked to Princeton not as often as I'd like, but I talk to him pretty regularly. As regularly as I talk to other knife makers. You know, I'll go months without talking to anybody. But he's done really well. And the fact is, when we saw him and we got these knives, he had went from doing car parts and automotive stuff and laser engraving and manufacturing things like that into making knives, and did it in just a few months and had a knife that was incredible. So this is the, I'm trying to remember, I think this is a Mark 1. Yeah, this is a Mark 1. So this is still just the Mark 1 version. He hasn't really changed anything. The blade shape it's just all belly. And so these are great. These are great, great knives. I will tell you, we're going to talk about the price point. That's the only issue. This knife was $1,575, which still in the custom knife world, that's not getting too insane. Insane? Let's use English, Mike. It's not too insane for a $1,500, $1,600 knife in the custom world. But the fact is, you can get into one of these closer to $800, and then you're still getting the same custom build quality. The knives are the same, it's just less exotic materials. So yeah, they start at like $800 and work their way up from there. So it's depending on your options. You can get into one of these for $800, which really, when you really look at it, is not that insane for a full custom built knife. Like, granted, it's a CNC. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, CNC knives aren't custom. I was like, look, if you're making them one at a time and you're making them to the customer specs, that in my book would fall into custom. If you're doing it in-house and you're like the Grimsmo Norseman, the Skaha, there's a couple other companies that do all things, Holt Blade Works. If you're doing that, Brian Nadeau, Sharp by Design, all those guys are doing all the work on a CNC. They're working it, they're doing it all on a machine, and then they come out and they put the knife together, and it's still, in my book, a custom. So I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue semantics on that. So, like I said, if this is something that's up your alley, Prince Customs, all you got to do is find their website. And like I said, you get the full, I mean, just look at the packaging. Like I said, it's amazing. You get the full deal with Princeton. I do believe he has another knife. I don't remember if it's done yet or not. He has a couple knives that he's been playing around with designs. But yeah, great knife. So, at the end of the video, we're going to throw this out there. We're going to talk about the membership stuff. Don't forget, we have memberships where you can pay to get exclusive content. As soon as I'm feeling a little bit better, on top of everything else that I talked about in the live feed that I did the other day, I think I've caught a stomach bug. I was sick all afternoon yesterday. Don't feel great this morning. Just had time to do a quick video before I get into taking care of my daughter's stuff. So with that being said, I apologize if there may be some content that comes late, or if there's stuff that you were expecting that hasn't happened yet. I am going to try and shoot that exclusive video where I reprofile a knife. That's an exclusive video for the premium tier members. That's going to be the next in the tutorial, is reprofiling. We're not going to do a full sharpening. We're going to do a reprofile. I'll film it, show you guys what I look at, how I set it up, how I work the knife to try and even out a very asymmetrical or uneven edge. So that would go along with like if I had to do tip repair and things like that. So guys, with that being said, check out the stuff in the corners. I have kept Skywarp. I have kept a link to his channel up there for a while. I think today we're going to pick a different channel, but go back to my other videos, find Skywarp's channel. He's a good kid. He does need more subscribers. So with all that being said, guys, like I said, if you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you really like the videos, you can hit the applause button and donate directly to the channel. And if you don't like the videos, you can give it a thumbs down. That's still an interaction. I just would like to know what about the video you don't like. And I don't mean just go in like, you're stupid, I don't like the way you talk, or I don't like your voice. That's not constructive. I'm talking about constructive things about format. So guys, I love you all. Take it easy, and I will see you in the next video. And it worked this time.